Welcome to Sonara's Deep Dive.
Welcome to the Depth Dive. We're here to take some really fascinating sources, cut through the noise, and really give you that core understanding you need on some amazing subjects.
And today we're looking at a worldview that really challenges our basic ideas of what human even means. We're exploring the traditional beliefs, the cosmology of Inuit and Yupik peoples.
Right, across the Arctic Greenland, it's this whole spiritual system built on, well, respect, isn't it? And transformation.
Exactly, a kind of spiritual economy, you could say.
And to really grasp how fundamental this is, we need to start with this incredible image. Just picture this. A shaman, an angakuk.
Yes, a spiritual specialist.
And they're deliberately, consciously changing form. They become a fish, maybe, or a seal.
Shedding their human body.
And they dive down into the Arctic Ocean, dark, freezing, crushing depths, right to the very bottom.
It's an unbelievable journey. And not for glory or power, but for almost like a spiritual duty.
A duty to who? Or what?
To Sedna, the sea mother. She controls all the marine animals, you see, and often she's in pain, her hair is tangled because of human mistakes, spiritual violations.
So the shaman goes down there to comb her hair.
To comb it, yes,
Yeah.
and braid it. To physically soothe her trauma, show compassion. It's a profound act of mediation.
Wow. Okay, so that image really sets the stage. Our sources, ethnography, oral stories, archaeology, they all point towards understanding the why. Why is such a ritual necessary?
That's our mission today. To explore Arctic animism, the shaman's role, this whole intricate cosmology that governs, well, life and death, hunting.
And it all comes back to this one core idea, this foundational principle that just hits you. The sources state it plainly. The greatest peril of life lies in the fact that human food consists entirely of souls.
Let that sink in. Entirely of
It
soul.
changes everything, doesn't it? Eating isn't just biological fuel. It's consuming another personhood, a soul.
It implies this constant spiritual debt, almost, or at least a very careful negotiation. If your life depends on taking other lives, other souls.
Then you need a whole different rule book. The danger isn't out there. It's literally in your food. It's what sustains you.
Exactly. Every meal is weighted. The animals have to cooperate. Their souls need to be willing. So every tool, every hunt, every story has to manage that immense spiritual risk.
Which brings us, I think, to the framework that allows this idea of shared reality.
Right. Let's unpack that framework. It's often discussed using terms like perspectivism or multinaturalism. It goes way beyond simple animism.
Okay, so not just spirits in things. What's the difference here?
Well, the key insight from Amerindian perspectivism as a way to understand this is universality. It posits that everyone, humans, animals, spirits, you name it, they all share the same fundamental spirit and the same culture.
Wait, the same culture? How does that work? A seal and a human share a culture.
In this view, yes. They are all subjects, all persons, with intentions, social lives, points of view. The only real difference isn't spiritual or cultural. It's the body, the physical form, the nature.
So, the seal sees itself as a person, maybe living in a seal house, wearing a seal coat. But fundamentally, it experiences itself as human in the sense of being a conscious, cultured being.
That's the core of it. Humanity isn't exclusive to Homo sapiens. It's the default subjective state. The caribou experiences the world as a caribou through its caribou body, but its inner self, its personhood, is analogous to human personhood.
And this isn't just some philosophical overlay, is it? It's ancient. You mentioned Knud Rasmussen documenting myths.
Yes, stories from the Netziling, for example. They talk about a time before the split.
At time
When people and animals weren't strictly separate, they could change into one another. They spoke the same language, lived similar lives. Total fluidity. The original state was unity.
Okay, that completely reframes hunting then. It's not man versus beast. It's person negotiating with person, just in a different skin.
Absolutely. And that negotiation is incredibly delicate. You need the animal's consent on some level. You need its soul to be willing to be taken and, crucially, willing to come back later.
Which must be why the rules, the taboos, are so important.
Exactly. You need a highly ordered system. These prescriptive observations, the taboos, they're the grammar of respect in a world where you eat souls.
Like separating sea mammal meat from land animal meat, or specific things you must do right after a kill.
Yes. Those are just arbitrary rules. They are spiritual maintenance. They keep the relationship balanced, ensure the animal soul isn't offended, that it feels respected enough to return. Break the rules.
And you risk famine because the souls won't cooperate.
Precisely. And when things go wrong, when the rules are broken or the balance is lost, who steps in?
The shaman. The angakuk.
the one with practical control over
Yeah.
transformation, the mediator who can actually talk to these other persons, these spirits, and figure out what went wrong and, crucially, fix it.
And that need for mediation, for fixing things, seems most dramatic when we talk about Sedna, the sea mother. Her story sounds incredibly intense.
It is. It's foundational. It explains where sea mammals come from and why they might disappear. It starts with her as a human woman, right?
Yeah.
An Inuit woman.
Often described as beautiful, but maybe reluctant about marriage.
Right. In many versions, there's an arranged marriage. Maybe to a hunter who seems promising.
But turns out to be something else entirely. A spirit bird.
Yes, disguised as a human. And the sources say this discovery causes her complete distress and agony. She's trapped, miserable.
So her father comes to rescue her by kayak.
He does. But the spirit bird isn't giving up. It pursues them, flapping its wings, creating this terrifying storm. The waves are huge. The kayak's about to flip.
And the father panics.
He panics, and in that moment, he chooses his own life over hers. He throws Sedna into the freezing water.
Oh my God, just throws her out.
Throws her out. But she doesn't give up. She grabs onto the side of the kayak.
Fighting to survive.
Absolutely. But the father, still terrified the boat will capsize, he takes his knife
No.
and he cuts off her fingers, joint by joint, as she clings on.
That's horrific.
It is. But it's also the moment of creation. Those severed fingers falling into the ocean
They become the sea animals.
became all the different sea creatures, whales, seals, narwhals, and so on. Her body parts, born from trauma, literally become the source of life for humans.
Wow. So her pain is directly linked to hunting.
Directly. She lives at the bottom of the sea now, controlling the release of these animals, the souls that came from her own body. If the animals disappear, if there's famine.
It's because Sedna is withholding them. Because she's angry or in pain.
Often, yes. Because the community has broken taboos, disrespected the souls, and this causes her spiritual pain, symbolized by her hair becoming tangled, matted with pollution, essentially.
And that's where the shaman comes back in. The dangerous dive.
That's the duty. When the food vanishes, the Ungakuk must undertake that journey, transform into a fish or a seal,
Survive the crushing pressure, the darkness.
find Sedna in her dwelling, Ainula, and perform that act of care, combing the tangles out of her hair, braiding it.
Soothing her, cleansing the community's transgressions through compassion.
Exactly. It's about restoring the relationship, convincing her, through this act of intimate care, to release the game again. The shaman literally mends the connection between the human world and the source of marine life.
Okay, so this ability to transform, to mediate with Sedna, it's obviously central to being an Angakuk. But you mentioned earlier the role wasn't always so formal.
Right, it's nuanced. The sources suggest shamanism wasn't necessarily a distinct profession for everyone. It might have been seen more as a kind of universal ability.
Like, everyone had the potential.
Sort of, yeah. Like, some people are naturally better hunters, others better storytellers. Some just had more or less talent for shamanic tasks. You could be a weak shaman or a strong one.
But there were strong ones, the professional Angakuk. What made them different?
Their power was innate, more reliable. They could consciously, at will, assume these non-human perspectives, travel those spiritual paths.
And communicate with spirits.
Critically, yes, communicate with their helping spirits, the turn-gate. These spirits, often animal forms themselves, were the source of the shaman's power and knowledge.
So the shaman could call on them, maybe be possessed by them?
Exactly, which gave the powerful Angakuk enormous influence, especially when the community faced crises like famine or sickness. They had a direct line to the underlying reality.
But they had to prove it, right? It wasn't just talk.
Oh, absolutely not. Belief had to be reinforced by demonstration. Power had to be seen. This led to incredibly dramatic public performances.
With the Ipirsak.
Yes, the Pirsak, a pre-Christian ceremony that was a raw display of spiritual transformation, often through mimicry.
What actually happened? The sources sound pretty intense.
Imagine this. The shaman stands before the community. He allows himself to be harpooned, with real harpoon connected to a thong.
Seriously.
Harpooned, yes. Then, while still in human form, he starts to act like, say, a walrus. He embodies the spirit, the nature of the walrus. And the men of the community grab the harpoon line and they pull with all their strength.
Right.
But the shaman, embodying the immense power of the walrus, resists.
He resists multiple men pulling on a harpoon line stuck in him.
Sometimes even drags them out of the communal house.
Yeah.
It demonstrated power beyond human capabilities. The implication was crystal clear. The spirit inside determines the body's limits. not the other way around.
So the walrus spirit made his human body incredibly strong, incredibly resistant.
That's the idea. The Apira-approved transformation was real, tangible, even if the outward form didn't fully shift. It validated the shaman's authority right there in front of everyone.
You can see why early European observers were, well, probably quite shocked.
Definitely. Captain Perry, back in the 1820s, he asked a shaman named Urit to perform. Perry described him working his face into these intense grimaces.
Making sounds.
Yeah, quivering lips, nose twitching, escalating into these distorted features, head whipping back and forth, making snuffling sounds, then this raving sort of cry. It was a visceral performance of summoning or embodying the spirit.
And Captain Lyon saw something similar with a shaman named Tulimak.
Yes, Lyon described Tulimak performing in a darkened space, which was common for seances. He made these strange guttural noises.
And then the spirit, the Turnjack, took over.
Apparently, yes. His body was taken over, and speaking with the spirit's voice, he'd answer questions from the audience about hunting, the future, sickness. It was direct consultation with the spirit world, facilitated and controlled by the shaman.
Okay, so we have the big picture, the worldview, the Sedna myth, these intense shamanic performances. How does this translate down to everyday objects? Can we see this belief in transformation in the artifacts people made and used?
We can. Archaeology gives us that tangible link. Though interestingly, really complex images of beings mid-transformation are a bit rarer in pre-modern Inuit art compared to, say, the earlier late Dorset culture, which was incredibly rich in that kind of imagery.
But it does exist.
Oh yes, and where it appears, it's potent. Take the Pinjaqualic ivory comb, found near Igloolik. Pre-contact Thula period.
Just a comb. What's special about it?
Not just a comb. Look at the etchings on it. Above the teeth, there are these two figures. They're facing each other, maybe fighting, maybe playing. They look like archers.
Okay, so human activities.
Yes, culturally human actions. But look closely at the figures themselves. They have these weirdly elongated faces, almost like muzzles, maybe antlers. Their postures are stretched, unnatural for humans.
Ah, so they're not quite human.
Exactly. The interpretation is that they're beings caught in that liminal state between species, human caribou maybe. Or perhaps they represent shamans in spiritual conflict, or they're helping spirits, their turngate.
And the fact they're doing human things reinforces that multinaturalist idea, shared culture, different bodies.
Precisely. The artifact captures that fluid reality.
What about simpler designs? You hear about circle and dot motifs being everywhere.
That's a crucial one, especially in older cultures like Okfik and Old Bering Sea. It looks basic, a circle with a dot in it, but it's loaded with meaning.
It wasn't just decoration.
No, definitely not. The sources are clear. It often symbolized spiritual eyes. It allowed the object itself to see into the unseen spiritual world.
So putting it on a tool gives the tool vision.
In a sense, yes. Or it could mark a joint, a place where spirits could enter or reside. Or even represent the layered shamanic cosmos. A harpoon head with that motif wasn't just sharp bone.
It was a traveler into the other world, a mediator, like the shaman.
That's the concept. It becomes an active participant, capable of navigating the spiritual dimensions needed to find and connect with the animal soul.
And this connects to tools actually shaped like animals.
Yes, the Taipei artifacts.
Yeah.
Clear intent there. You see harpoon heads carved like bird heads, off in the loon, a really powerful diver, a common shamanic helper.
Makes sense. What else?
Socket pieces. The part that joins the harpoon head to the shaft, carved like predators, bears, wolves with these fierce, toothy mouths.
So you're embedding the animal spirit, its inua, right into the weapon.
Exactly. You're imbuing the tool with the personhood, the agency of that powerful animal. It's not just symbolic, it's pragmatic. It's meant to work.
To make the hunt successful.
Right. These decorated tools could even be seen as extensions of the shaman, like an extra body or a rebuilt body designed for spiritual tasks.
Rebuilt body.
Yeah.
How does that work for, say, a tool?
Think about something like a seal scratcher. Hunters use them to mimic the sound of a seal scratching the ice, to lure them closer or allow the hunter to approach.
Okay.
Now, if that scratcher is made with actual seal claws and it's covered in little carvings of seals.
You're layering on the sealness.
Exactly. You're reinforcing its spiritual connection to seals. The belief was this made it more effective, better at tricking the prey, because the tool itself participated in the identity of the seal. It wasn't just wood and claws. It was an active seal-like agent in the hunting drama.
We've painted a picture of this incredibly deep, all-encompassing spiritual system. But then, starting a few centuries ago, Christianity arrives. Missionaries, traders, a huge external force. What happens then? Does this worldview just vanish.
That's the standard narrative often, isn't it? That indigenous beliefs just crumble under colonial pressure.
Yeah.
But our sources really push back against that.
How so?
They argue it wasn't simply a demise, it was much more complex. It was about integration and transformation.
So not replacement,
Mhm.
but adaptation, selecting elements.
Kind of, yeah. The interpretation presented is that Inuit communities often incorporated Christian ideas or figures, maybe seeing God or Christ as a very powerful new kind of spirit or turngak.
And adding that power into their existing system.
Exactly. Not because their own cosmology had failed, but as a way to reinforce existing cultural values like healing or community or morality, using new spiritual tools that proved effective or resonant.
That flips the script, doesn't it? It makes the adoption of Christianity potentially an act of cultural strength, of strategic adaptation, rather than submission.
That's the argument. It emphasizes their agency in the process. It connects to this idea of quajimajatu quanjit.
Which means?
Roughly, the knowledge, the traditions from the past that are still useful, still relevant today. Inuit culture, the sources suggest, has always maintained continuity through adaptation and integrating new things that work.
And who decided what worked? Was it a collective decision?
Often it seems it came down to individual agency, personal choice, personal experience with the new spiritual options. Did it help? Did it make sense within their understanding of the world? It wasn't necessarily a top-down conversion, but individuals and families making choices that ultimately helped ensure cultural survival, even as the forms of expression changed.
So shamanism, in this view, didn't die. It just transformed, continued in new ways.
You could say that.
Yeah.
Or that the underlying principles, the importance of spirits, transformation, mediation, persisted, perhaps finding new expressions. The ability of the Angakuk, the power to navigate the spiritual world, might adapt, but the need for that connection and the autonomy to define it remains central.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's really striking just how different this worldview is. This Inuit and Yupik understanding of a world full of persons where your food has a soul you need to respect. It's profound.
It really is. The idea of multinaturalism, shared culture, different bodies, and the sheer physicality of spiritual power, like in the Apursak, those are incredibly compelling concepts.
And seeing it reflected in the artifacts, the tools themselves becoming agents, having spiritual eyes, being rebuilt bodies, it makes the belief system so tangible.
It shows how cosmology wasn't abstract philosophy. It was the operating manual for survival, played out daily in hunts, rituals, and even the crafting of tools.
So that brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. Building on this idea of objects having agency, being imbued with power.
If a harpoon head, carefully carved with spirit eyes and embodying animal power, could function as a kind of rebuilt body for the shaman, a tool to actively navigate between worlds and ensure life continued.
Then what technologies in our lives today do we perhaps unconsciously imbue with that kind of belief, that kind of agency? Think about smart devices, AI assistants, even our cars.
Are we, in our own way, turning seemingly inert artifacts into active participants, maybe even spiritual agents, in shaping our modern reality? Something to think about.
Thanks for tuning into Sonara's Deep Dive. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of our future episodes. I bring you fresh content every week. Thanks for listening.